I'm going to swing for the fences with this one. Here we go. So much is dependent upon how we understand religion. Whether we know it or not, when we say that word, we carry with it so many undertones and ideas and things that we don't realize that we bring along. Now, some of you might have heard the phrase that Christianity is not a religion, it is a relationship. And I'm not sure if I appreciate that sentence. I feel like it gets halfway there, but as I had said before, so much depends on how you understand the word religion. And then how does this connect with the book of Hebrews? Well, let's try to go macro. Let's go big view for a moment. I know some of you are learning about early humanity, so let's do that. Let's talk about a global and historical understanding of religion, how it came to be and how it came along, and then what revolution happens in the book of Hebrews. So that's the plan in 10 minutes or less. Well, thousands of years ago, we used to be survival-based individuals. We would go through life and we would try to get what we need to survive. And then humanity, we started working together in a different way. And then we became hunter-gatherers. And then we would either hunt animals or gather fruit or berries, and that's how we would survive. But along the way, we would have moments where we would experience awe. Moments where we would experience wonder and beauty and infinite. And so our understanding of God was really blossoming during that time as we started to understand, who made those stars up there? Who made the hog we just hunted down? Is the hog a god? And so we used to ascribe divinity to certain things that maybe weren't God all the way. But then as we kind of shifted in towards planting our food and becoming more farmers rather than hunter-gatherers, there was kind of like an explosion globally where we would say, hey, you know how we planted last year and we had a really good harvest? Do you remember at the beginning of that, we had our buddy Fred dance? Let's have Fred dance again at the beginning of the harvest. And then we have the start of rituals start happening, where then we would have ritual dancing before each harvest, and then maybe we started doing other things. And so on a global perspective, religion really was like born out of how we relate to the world around us. You can kind of see hints of this revolution happening with the story of Cain and Abel, when one of their sacrifices was maybe more important than the other, and that caused the falling out of humanity with each other. Okay. But along the way, we started to have people that were really good at remembering the rituals of religion. And we started to call these people priests. And every culture has their own understanding of priests. They might call them shamans, they might call them gurus or something else. But within the Hebrew tradition, priests were unique among all the others. But what we started to do was we started to have representatives, set people who would relate to God for us. Now, most people understand religion that way. So most of us understand Christianity in that way, in some sense that Steve and Debbie are the unique ones that relate to God for us because we can't do it ourselves. Now, here is where the book of Hebrews comes in. Debbie read a passage that said Christ came onto the scene, and Christ is the high priest. Christ is the mediator between us and God. But you know how I said that the book of Hebrews kind of has a revolution within it? Hebrews does something really fascinating with religion. Because not only is Christ the priest, Christ is also the sacrifice. And Christ is also God. And so for thousands of years, we would have someone else relate to God for us, and here is God stepping into that middle spot. And so when we say that Christ is the high priest for all of us, who paid the sacrifice once for all, is the words of Hebrews, we have to take a moment and realize this is a radical shift from how religion has been done since the beginning of humanity. Where we all of a sudden realize, oh my goodness, it's not about us reaching up to God, it's about God reaching down to us. It's not about us making the sacrifice to God, it's actually God making the sacrifice, somehow to close the bridge towards us. Cain killed Abel and sprinkled his blood and gave him a guilty conscience. Well, Christ's blood is sprinkled that we might have an empty or clean conscience. That happens again in Hebrews chapter 12. From the very start of humanity, Christ has been pulling us in love towards this deep, profound revelation that God is Christ and Christ is our high priest, which means God is our high priest. Now, this subverts everything we always thought about religion, but here's what it means, and let's wrap it up here. Since God was man, and this God-man Jesus is our high priest, that means that God fulfilled the contract, the goodwill between God and man from both sides. That's like a super Presbyterian thing to say. From God's side, God did what was necessary to be our God, and God, from Christ's side, did everything necessary for God to be our God. So Jesus is the perfect middle piece, the perfect high priest who was man and God and priest and sacrifice once for all. There really isn't any better good news than that. There is zero enmity and strife and disagreement and discord between us and God because we have that high priest. Amen.